Hey everybody, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture again, and today I am back with another ranked list of movie recommendations for you, and this time I have a list of the 10 biggest movies, most loaded cast, the absolute biggest of big movies that you never knew existed. So pop that tape in, I got you, let's go do this. All right, so 10 movies you never knew existed. Now, these are big movies with all-star A-list casts. They have everything going for them. They had the budgets they needed. They had all the stuff, all the ingredients. But for some reason, these just slipped through the cracks. They just were kind of forgotten about. They went thud at the box office, and they just kind of have gotten lost. And some of these are really good movies. So just keep in mind, this list, I'm not saying all of these are bangers that you just must watch, though some of them are, but all of these movies with everything they had behind them should have definitely just taken off. And for whatever reason, they have just fallen into mostly obscurity. So I've got 10 for you, and we're starting out. We're going to jump right into the list with number 10, and it's 2020's The Night Clerk. Now, this movie made $302,000. $302,000 at the box office off a $30 million estimated budget. And this film stars Ty Sheridan of Ready Player One. That's probably one of the biggest things he's done. But Helen Hunt is in this movie, as well as John Leguizamo and Ana de Armas playing a big role in this movie. So you had the ingredients there. And this one actually is pretty good. Some of these movies I just watched for the first time when compiling this list. I'm going to be honest, this was one of them. It stars kind of a voyeuristic but super smart guy played by Tyler Sheridan. And he has Asperger's syndrome, so he's kind of, a little bit awkward, I guess is how he's portrayed. But the dude's kind of like a voyeur. He works at as a night clerk at this building, and they have surveillance cameras and everything, and he kind of just watches everybody. But the problem comes in when he becomes the prime suspect in a murder that has taken place there. And over the course of this investigation, he kind of forms a relationship, a connection, an attachment to this beautiful young woman who's played by Ana de Armas. And it's ultimately up to him to stop the killer himself, to keep her from possibly being next on the killer's target list, and kind of clear himself at the same time. So you have a little bit, I was reminded a little bit in some ways of Sliver, with all watching of the cameras and the monitors and everything like that. And it sort of has a little bit of Hitchcock vibes to it with that sort of thriller mystery. And then you throw in this guy with his condition. I mean, all the elements were there to make a big movie. This one, just for whatever reason, did not quite make it, but it makes it onto our list. The Night Clerk comes in at number 10. At number 9 on our list is one that I actually really enjoy, and I don't have this on physical media. You could probably try before you buy out there. This one's been around a while, and it is a really fun movie. This one I do high recommend. It's a little lower on the list because the chances are maybe there's more of a chance that you've heard of this one. I'm talking about 2009's The Invention of Lying. Now, this movie had an $18 million budget. It made about $18 million back. And that's about all it did. But man, does it have a cool, fun, different concept and a cast. It stars Ricky Gervais. It has Jennifer Gardner. They're the two lead roles. But you also have Jonah Hill, Louis C.K., Rob Lowe, Tina Fey, Jeffrey Tambor. You have a big cast. And this is set in sort of an alternate reality where nobody can lie. Everybody tells the truth all the time, and they pretty much just say whatever is on their mind, whatever they are thinking, without any reservations, which would be a rough way to live.
How are you?
A little frustrated at the moment.
Also equally depressed and pessimistic about our date tonight.
There is no sugarcoating anything. One of my favorite moments in this film is the advertising, because the advertising can't lie. And, it talks about how something is unhealthy for you or whatever, but a bus rolls by with a Pepsi sign on it, and the slogan that they have is Pepsi for when they don't have Coke. And dude, I just started dying laughing when I saw that roll in. So much fun. But Ricky Gervais finds himself suddenly with the power to lie, to say something that's not true, and nobody even really knows what this is, but he is with his mother in the hospital and she is dying, and she's afraid. She's afraid of what's going to happen next when she dies. And on that moment, he invents, at least in their world, heaven. And he tells her this beautiful story about what she's going to expect, which is our heaven, a heaven of this earth with faith. And but he doesn't know it's true. He doesn't know where this power comes from to make up this story for her. And it gets overheard by everybody in the hospital. And suddenly he becomes famous. And from there, he invents fiction. He wants to be in movies, which are basically just like readings at this time of history, because they can't lie. But he's able to make up all of these stories, and he becomes rich and famous and all of this because he wants to marry Jennifer Gardner and be with her. But in their world, he doesn't have the genetics, the looks, the money, or anything else before this in order to get someone like her, because they just tell it how it is. So there is no out-kicking your coverage in this society until the invention of lying. This movie is fun. It's going to give you some awkward laugh moments. High recommend. This one I do recommend. And the invention of lying comes in at number 9. Now, at number 8 on our list is a sci-fi adventure film from 2017. It stars Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. The movie is called Life. And this one had, I believe it was a $30 million budget, a $58 million budget, and it made $30 million back at the box office. So even with Gyllenhaal and Reynolds at the helm, it couldn't really save it. It's a big story where there are 6 people on a, International Space Station. And they discover this like rapidly growing life form, this alien life form that is probably what wiped out all of life on Mars back in the day. And now it is threatening to do the same thing on Earth. If it gets there, they're dealing with it here on this space station and everything that happens. So you have that sort of alien vibe they're going for. It doesn't quite hit that mark, but I mean, it's still entertaining. If you like sci-fi, this is one that you could check out. I'm not sure if it's streaming or what its status is on physical media. I checked it out on streaming. I rented it for this list, so you can get that. But Life from 2017, check it out. If you like Ryan Reynolds, you like Jake Gyllenhaal, there are definitely worse things out there. It comes in at number 8 on our list. Now, at number 7 on our list is one that I actually have because it stars one of the biggest movie stars in history, in absolute history. And he's not the only one bringing something to this movie. I'm talking about 2015's Maggie, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, maybe some genre fans, maybe hardcore Arnold fans have seen this, but honestly, I'm going to tell you the truth. I could not even find box office numbers on this one. I couldn't find box office numbers on this one. But this is actually kind of an underrated movie. It's not bad at all. It's a different take on the zombie genre. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a devoted and loving father to Abigail Breslin, who plays his daughter. So you have another big name in there. Jolie Richardson's also in this movie. So you have the cast. Obviously got Arnold. So you got a cast. But he plays a father who is seeing his daughter succumb to this new outbreak of a disease that is causing the infected to become cannibalistic, flesh-eating zombies. I mean, your standard zombie. But it's happening over time, and he's trying to find a cure. He's trying to protect her and be this great father. And it's kind of a little heavy, kind of a little sad because of that. But I think Arnold gives a really understated, really good performance in here. Abigail Breslin, I mean, she's an Academy Award nominee. They make sure they tell you right there, because on some of these movies, they're touting anything that they can get. Like I said, genre fans might have picked up on this one. Arnold fans, almost certainly, like me. But by and large, this one's one that people just saw go under, get lost in the cracks, fall through, and go under the radar. But it is definitely one worth checking out. You can obviously get this on physical media. I'm sure you can try it on streaming. But Maggie, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, believe it or not, comes in on our list at number 7. At number 6 on our list is another one that I have. So I am a movie guy, so not as many things get by me. I love the golden age of Hollywood, so this one definitely didn't get by me. I am a big Superman fan. Another reason this one did not get by me, and maybe a few more people caught this one, or it could be higher on the list. I'm talking about Hollywoodland from 2006. Now, this movie stars Ben Affleck, Adrian Brody, Diane Lane, Bob Haskins, Robin Tooney, and that's just kind of scratching the surface. There's a lot of other character actors and stuff like that in this film. And it is based loosely on the true story where Ben Affleck plays George Reeves, who was in the Adventures of Superman back in the 1950s. So this takes place in like 1950s Hollywood. Man, I love like the old era, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, all that of Hollywood. I love it. And it captures a lot of those vibes. There is some problems with this. Adrian Brody plays a detective. So you got your private detective. So you got a little bit of a noir vibe to this. And he plays a detective who is trying to figure out and investigate the mysterious death of George Reeves. So George Reeves, who played Superman, died at a young age. I'm not going to get into everything here because I don't want to spoil the movie. A lot of people haven't seen these, so you got to check them out. Makes it a little harder to do a list like this. But the problem with this is, to me, Brody isn't necessarily believable all the time as this, old school Hollywood detective. And while that's going on, it's almost like two separate movies. He's over here, and then Ben Affleck telling the story of George Reeves' kind of bittersweet life and what he wanted to be and what he is, and doing Superman and all that kind of stuff. He gives a great performance. It's almost like two movies kind of sewed together, but it still has all that atmosphere to it. It has all those old school Hollywood vibes, and really, really a unheralded but a very good performance in here by Ben Affleck. Of course, Diane Lane's always good. Odd to say that Adrian Brody might be a little bit of the weak link in this movie for me, because I love him in a lot of things. Even like Predators, I think he's great, and you don't see him as an action guy, but he's great in that movie. Again, it kind of feels a little disjointed, but watch it for the atmosphere, watch it for the vibes, watch it for the performance by Affleck. You're going to get what you want out of it. And if you like a good whodunit, you kind of like some of that kind of stuff, if you're into noir films, you're going to get some of those vibes in here. And Hollywoodland, I recommend it, though everybody, I admit, it's probably not going to be for everyone, but you can try to uncover what happened yourself and dive into this true story. It comes in at number 6 on our list. Now, at number 5 on our list is another one with one of my favorite actors. Keanu Reeves stars in this film. I'm talking about 2016's Exposed. Now, if you want to talk whodunit, this is definitely a whodunit type film, but a lot of people didn't find out whodunit, because against a budget of $80 million, which I like seeing, or $8 million, I like seeing Hollywood do more of these, like the $5 to $20 million movie. And if they would bring back and focus more on physical media, they would make their budgets back about 100 times over a lot of times on this, or at least 10 times over, right? 100 might be a little hyperbolic. But Ben Affleck actually talks about this in a video that's going online about how they could make more money and do films like this. But this film stars Keanu Reeves. We got Ana de Armas again in this movie. I don't know what it is about that. Mira Sorvino, Chris McDonald, Shooter McGavin. He is in this movie. And this has got another police detective thing here. A police detective played by Keanu. He investigates the truth behind the death of his partner. And as he does, he uncovers kind of like a dark secret kind of conspiracy somewhat a little bit that involves a young, beautiful woman. I'm going to let you guess who that is. But it's a whodunit. I don't want to say it's by the numbers. I think I read something that the director of this wanted to shoot this bilingual. He wanted to shoot it in English and Spanish, but I don't know what happened to that there. But again, this movie was made for like 8 to 10 million, I think it was. Some places said 6.8 million. It made $269,000 at the box office. This is what Matt Damon was talking about. If we could get more movies, if we went back to the old system of release in the theater, wait a little while, release on physical media for like rent or whatever, and then wait a little while, release for sale, wait a little while, release for streaming, you could get more movies like this that don't have to be just massive budget films because they would have more revenue windows to make their money back. But this is one definitely worth checking out if you're into Ana de Armas or if you are a big Keanu fan like me. Check out Exposed from 2006. It comes in at number 5. Now, number 4 on our list is one that I had not seen until I watched it for this list right here, and that is 2015's Blackway. And I kept wanting to say that title wrong. This is another one of those in that $10 million budget range. It made $27,000 at the box office. So you might not have caught this one, but it stars Anthony Hopkins. It stars Julia Stiles. It stars Ray Liotta. It stars Alexander Ludwig. And if you don't know who he is, if you watch the show Vikings, he played Bjorn Ironside. Great performance. I also believe his dad runs Lionsgate. So there you go. It also has Hal Holbrook in this movie. And this kind of takes place all in the Pacific Northwest as Julia Stiles' character comes back to her hometown. She moves back to her hometown in the Pacific Northwest. And she promptly starts getting kind of harassed, stalked, bothered by a former cop turned kind of crime boss in Ray Liotta, who is kind of wants her and is after her. And Anthony Hopkins and his nephew, played by Alexander Ludwig, Anthony Hopkins is a former logger. He's older. He's got I think it's his nephew. Alexander Ludwig plays his nephew. They're the only two that are kind of stepping in against all this and Ray Liotta to kind of try to help her out. So it's kind of a contained, but it's got that pretty, that intensity, the small town. You're kind of locked away from everyone else. So it kind of takes place in what feels like almost another dimension, but you totally buy that these small town ecosystems can kind of exist on their own. And then you're up here in the great Northwest and anything can happen. And it kind of plays on those vibes, and they help her not be so alone, so she doesn't have to try to take on this alone. And definitely some interesting performances here. Ludwig plays it kind of quiet, which he did as Bjorn on Vikings, but there he's playing the strong Viking type. Not that he is not playing a strong guy in this movie, because it's a big dude and all that stuff. He kind of gives off those vibes. But him and Anthony Hopkins together, they're definitely a serious foil to the bad guy who just wants to have his way with Julia Stiles. So check it out. Anthony Hopkins, how can you go wrong? Blackway from 2015 comes in at number 4 on our list. Now, number 3 on our list is maybe my favorite movie on this list. I only have it at 3 instead of number 1 because maybe more of you have seen this, although I don't know, because every time I mention it, no one has ever heard of it. But I am talking about The Joneses from 2009. Now, this movie stars David Duchovny, Demi Moore, Amber Heard, Gary Cole, a litany of others that you have seen. This one was made right here in Georgia where I'm at, and it has some friends in there that I know. Robert Prago, who is a local actor. He played the mayor on the first season of Vampire Diaries. Friend of mine. He was in my movie Bring Me a Dream. He has a big part in this film. Rick Wright, who is like the head of SAG, or he was here in Georgia, he's in this. So it had some of my hometown flavor. So maybe I was a little more aware of this film. But man, this is a good movie. Despite the fact that it had like a $12 million budget and only made $1.4 million, I think Demi Moore's performance in here is better than her performance in The Substance in a lot of ways. This has a very interesting sort of commentary on consumerism culture. That's obviously there, but to me, consumerism is what you make it. Nobody makes you buy anything. So that's kind of what you make it. But in this situation, a seemingly perfect family of Demi Moore and David Duchovny, they're supposed to be married. Amber Heard is their teenage daughter. They have another kid that plays a teenage son. They are actually hired by a marketing firm to pose as this perfect family in this upper middle class neighborhood, where this marketing firm gives them all of the latest and greatest clothes, makeup, food, drinks, cars, tools, everything, sports equipment. They give it all to them, and their job is to look like the coolest, most happy people on earth with all of this stuff, and basically sell this stuff to their neighbors. Sell the American dream is the tagline for this. And you see what happens when people try to live beyond their means and keep up with the Joneses and go after buying all the latest material things out there to seek this status level, this form of happiness. And David Duchovny, he sees his character sees the problem with this right away. I'm not going to spoil it, but he's like the conscience in this movie and the sort of no nonsense. But he gets swept up for a moment playing this part. And Demi Moore is just great in this movie. Both her and David Duchovny performances, just top-notch performances. And a sneaky one that is outstanding is Gary Cole. If you don't know who he is, look him up, been in everything. But a very good performance. Movie has a lot to say, but still in an entertaining and fun way. It doesn't beat you over the head with the message. The message is contained in there, and it's delivered in an entertaining, although somewhat bittersweet kind of way. Absolutely high recommend. I would say out of all these on the list, my two highest recommends are this and The Invention of Lying. So check out The Joneses. It comes in at number 3 on our list. Now, at number 2 on our list is one that starts to get, this one's a little steamy. This one pushes the naughtiness boundaries, and I don't really know how this one slipped under my nose without seeing it, because it's also based on a real actor in Hollywood back again in that time frame, 50s, 60s, 70s, stuff like that I dig from Hollywood. I'm talking about 2002's Autofocus. Now, this is another one. It had a $8 million budget. It made like $1.47 million. But again, now they used to take more chances on movies like that in around 2002 than they do now. But I love that they did it. It stars Greg Kinnear. It stars Willem Dafoe, Maria Bello, Rita Wilson, a host of others that you're going to recognize. And this story is kind of a biopic about Bob Crane. If you don't know who Bob Crane is, he was the star of the hit TV show Hogan's Heroes. He was the star of that show, but he was always kind of hiding an addiction. And no, it wasn't to drugs and alcohol. He had a sex addiction. And not only did he have a sex addiction, he loved taking photographs and videos of nude women. Now, he wasn't doing things to people against their will, right? He wasn't doing that kind of stuff. But like it all consumed his life. I mean, he actually, he said, sex is perfectly normal. A day without, sex is a tragedy, basically. He was consumed by it. He didn't actually really see the problem with it, though, until it was costing him jobs and costing him the chance to be a movie star, which is what he really wanted to be, which is why he almost didn't take the role in Hogan's Heroes, because he wanted to be a movie star. But he was so wrapped up in this other stuff, it took up so much of his time, and the rumors got spread around about it. It affected his career. It absolutely affected his career. But he wouldn't necessarily yield on it. He actually found a friend whose name is John Carpenter. Not that John, but he's played by Willem Dafoe. And together, these guys' biggest connection was that they loved women and they were addicted to sex with women and taking pictures and making them glamorous looking and just living their best life in that way. But it just kind of overtakes everything. We see how it affects him and how he won't see that he might need to yield a little bit. Like, he's like, well, you can have a career, but what his agent's telling him, he's like, what should I do, to get you back in there? I'm going to have to tell them. And he kind of stops his agent. He's like, tell them sex is natural. Like he wouldn't yield on it. And it's just kind of interesting to see this kind of take over this guy's life, how it affected him, how it affected his relationship with others, how it affected his business and roles in Hollywood, all that kind of stuff. Very interesting and well done movie. This was done by Paul Schrader, who is the writer of like Taxi Driver, Touch, Bringing Out the Dead. He wrote that movie that Scorsese did, so he worked with Scorsese several times. It's a very interesting look, and it has lots of vibes, vintage Hollywood to it that I absolutely love. I recommend checking this one out. It's definitely different, not for everyone. Pretty steamy, kind of heavy in spots, but also plenty of humor and a lot of vibes to it. So Autofocus comes in on our list at number 2. That just leaves one on our list. The number 1 spot comes for a 2017 movie called The Circle. Now, this one has a cast. This one stars Tom Hanks. It stars Emma Watson. It stars Bill Paxton, John Boyega, and Karen Gillan. If you don't know who she is, think Jumanji, think Guardians of the Galaxy and the Marvel movies. Big cast in 2017, a $30 million roughly budget, and it made about $18 million. So not a lot of people had heard of it. I was shocked to find out that I hadn't heard of it because it has Tom Hanks in it. I'm a big fan of Karen Gillan. But it is a sci-fi sort of mystery thriller. And Emma Watson plays, this young woman who is getting a job at this massive tech company. This is like supposed to be, maybe slightly futuristic a little bit. But she plays she's getting this job at this big tech company. She's super excited about it until she kind of uncovers sort of a sinister plot, like something that would kind of detrimentally affect all of humanity in some ways. There is a kind of scary tagline to this that kind of tells you, because this one's kind of hard to talk about, and I'll explain why more in a minute without giving it away. But the tagline is, secrets are lies. Sharing is caring. Privacy is theft. So you can kind of see where it's going. The big tech wants to, be in your life, control everything you do, monitor what you do, control what you do based on how the monitoring goes. So it kind of gets heavy. There's definitely some like social political commentary in it that kind of doesn't get all the way baked into it. And what's interesting about that is I think the reason this one, nobody has heard of this hardly, and it didn't do well, is the writing on this one. Like I recommend that you check it out for an intrigue standpoint, but it's almost like they're missing like the last 15 pages of the script. The movie kind of sets all this stuff up in these different threads and then just kind of ends. The writing overall for this script, I mean, I'm a writer. The writing is suspect. It's suspect. But man, it must have done something good enough to get all of these actors attached to the project. I think they were probably looking at the social commentary of invasion of privacy and all this stuff. And it just, like I said, all the ingredients were there. It just didn't bake up together into a really good cake. But it is a very big movie with a very big cast that a lot of people, including myself, until I started researching this list, had not heard of. So for that reason, I mean, you got Tom Hanks, you got Bill Paxton, Emma Watson, Karen Gillan. This is a big cast in this movie to just kind of sneak under the radar. So for all of those reasons, The Circle comes in at number 1. You got Tom Hanks playing a sort of Bill Gates type character in some ways in this. Interesting movie. I'm going to call interesting on this at our number 1 spot. But that is the list I have for you of 10 of the biggest movies that you never knew existed. These movies are filled with big casts, big ideas, all kinds of stuff, but they just, for whatever reason, didn't hit the mark, and they just kind of slipped through the cracks for most people. And a lot of people have not heard of them. I know I'm going to get, oh, I heard of that movie, I heard of that. We're talking about the people at large here. It's not supposed to be an all-encompassing list. That's hard to do. A fool's errand to try to make a blanket statement about every movie for everyone. But in general, these movies have snuck under the radar. But let me know, have you seen these movies? What did you think of them if you have? My highest recommendations, The Invention of Lying, The Joneses, and Maggie and Hollywoodland. Those 4 I recommend probably the highest, followed by maybe The Night Watch and Life, I'm going to say, after that, or The Night Clerk, not Night Watch, The Night Clerk, and yeah, check them out and let me know what you think. But that's what I got for you this time. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. We do all kinds of stuff here. We do these lists, recommendations. We do 4K film reviews, movie reviews from a fan and filmmaker's perspective. If this is your first time here, I am a filmmaker. That's what I've done for a couple of decades now, and I love doing this here. I do physical media news, all kinds of stuff here. If it's movies, we love to do it. If that sounds like something that's your jam and you want to help support the channel, besides just liking and subscribing, you can join right here at my YouTube link for my channel or my Patreon. Get your name and lights on every single video. Behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, special members only videos, and so much more. Everything goes back into the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.
I know.